Here is Chris with today's topic.
For sure. Well, and let's move on then and talk about the few major moving parts that BioLargo has and where you're at as we're transitioning into 2026. Of course, PFAS remediation was the way in which I first got to be acquainted with you back when to learn that whole part of your
Yep.
business. This is something that is a multi-trillion dollar cleanup and remediation effort globally. It's absolutely massive. The technology used to the extent that it even is right now in the world, and it's not nearly enough according to all the regulators,
Right.
is outmoded. And
Old tech.
you've come up with a much better mousetrap.
Yep.
We've been talking about it for a while. You were in testing stages for a while,
Now
and
we're in
now at
commerce.
long last, in
Yep.
New Jersey,
Yep.
you've got all of your equipment set up. You're going through the final testing, and this is going to go live imminently. And it's
Yep.
exciting because when people realize that this works, I think there's going to be an avalanche of
Yep.
interest in this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we all the equipment's up there. It's actually live, but not treating water yet, right? But it's running. We've had engineers up there for a couple of weeks doing final checks. We did have to work through a lot of logistics with both the client, which is the
Right.
operator local, and then the New Jersey contractors, and all of those pieces of that puzzle is always fun to work with. So all those pieces had to come together, and it took a little longer than everybody anticipated. And I'd get a lot of calls, people say, "What the heck? You guys know what you're doing?" I'm like, "Whoa. There's a lot of moving parts over here. We actually do know what we're doing."
Well,
So going
especially when
live
you're
is
dealing with government agencies, different layers of that and everything. Nothing ever
permitting.
moves all that fast.
Yeah. Now, the other thing too is we're working very closely with both the state EPA and the federal EPA. And that's a really big deal because that's the best validation possible in the world. Just understand that. So and remember, our first installation is a commercial account. This is live business. This is not, gosh, I hope it works. This is okay. We're in business to do this. And that's really important because a lot of people in the world want to see commercial validation. They just don't want to be number one. And so mission number one is to do all that, support the validation work with both the federal and state agencies, which is absolutely underway and so encouraging, really so encouraging as an entrepreneur to watch the pull. That's a pull. Somebody's pulling us in. It's like finally, because we've been talking about it for years. But there's this gap, and that is, show me a system live and operating and scaled and all the stuff. So that's number one. And then number two is behind that, we got well over $200 million worth of business queued up. I mean, it's crazy big, significant business. And how does that happen? Well, in this business, the water business is kind of a project engineering business. There's equipment, there's a technology, there's installation, there's service, there's customization, there's this whole thing. It's construction. I mean, roads, lights, energy, venting, all the things that go in to make a project functional. And so there's a long lead time. These things can go out a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 year lead time just for projects. And when we started, we thought these projects would be, $1 million, $2 million kind of projects. Well, they're getting bigger and bigger. And why? Well, because the market is realizing that old tech is not a good answer. The old tech, mostly carbon, ion exchange, and it's mostly in the waste stream. There are also some efficiency issues with its ability to perform at a non-detect level. Carbon has what's called breakthrough. That means it breaks through over time. It fills all its sites, channels. It has channeling that occurs. Channeling means that contaminants can race down a channel. Think of water rolling down an anthill. It channels. Well, the same thing happens in carbon beds, okay?
Well, and I'm
And
glad
then,
you bring that up. I was going to ask you if you didn't bring that up, Dennis, because for the most part, and I'm oversimplifying this, I don't want to be completely unfair, but a lot of what is out there now in purported PFAS remediation is just a glorified, supersized home
filter.
carbon filtration
Yeah.
unit that you use for
Yeah.
your drinking water.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much right. And the issue there is the waste stream. So what
Yeah.
happened, in the number one rule, right? There's a number one, I shouldn't say. One of our first inventors, Ken Code, who's just brilliant. He taught me early on. He said, number one, don't mess with Mother Nature. Okay. Number two, don't create another problem. don't solve one problem, create another problem. Carbon and ion exchange solve one problem, create another problem. It's like the number, it's not number one, it's number two. Don't mess with other nature is number one, right? Number two is don't trade problems. And so in PFAS, you're talking about forever chemicals that last forever because there's such a strong carbon bond. And so destroying them is really important. And our thesis is really simple. If you can super concentrate the contaminant, then you can super destroy it
Mhm.
because it's efficient. Instead of dealing with a truckload of 40,000 pounds, you deal with 2 or 3 pounds of isolated, concentrated sludge, which is this super contaminant called PFAS, forever chemicals, bound into a membrane. And then you can destroy it with thermal and electrooxidation very easily, actually. And the economics are so compelling when you do it that way because you're only having to tackle this very small bucket of goo as
Mhm.
opposed to a truckload. I mean, it's really that simple. And so the economics are so compelling, the environmental impact on the long haul. And then one of the other things is we had a recent improvement in the economics of our energy consumption for the unit itself. So it's getting better and better. Better and more efficient means more economics, okay?
Right.
And the other thing that'll happen is we'll get to scale on the supply chain. So because we're really not even at scale yet. So the scale of electrodes, the scale of units, shipping, supply chain, construction, all that hasn't even hit in yet. So
Yeah.
we can compete, one-off units with the market. Wait till we get scale. And so this is a field people look at it and they say, one of the biggest compliments I think we get is that based on our thesis of value, that we stand alone in the market. We have an unusual position that's alone in the world because there's a lot of other and there's some good technologies, right? So we don't want to knock them all. They have other features that make them special, but ours in the high volume systems in the systems that are small and modular where we can scale easily, we're like the go-to answer. And
Yeah.
I think it represents literally hundreds of millions of dollars worth of business for BioLargo. And we're now at that tipping point of breakthrough. And you say, well, how do you know? I said, because we're on the phone every day with customers all over the world and partners. That's the other thing. How does a small company make a global impact? Well, you get really great partners. That's how you do it. And partners means supply chain partners and deployment and support and engineering and pull from the government, all these things that we're doing. And I got to give Tanya Chandler really great credit. She's so good at this. And of course, the engineers are incredible. And then we just stay the course, we've figured it out. And figuring it out means we show up with a good technical solution that's competitive, that's trustworthy, that people can trust. We show up over and over and over, and eventually says,
Right.
"Hey, those guys, they got it right." And I'm like, "What
Well,
do
I
you
got
know?"
I got to appreciate that, as you know, back in the fall when I was zigzagging my way back to home to Florida from being up north, and I finally got to stop by your big facility up in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And Randy Moore showed me around and showed me all of the nuts and bolts and how the whole PFAS remediation works. It's weird because in a way it's extremely intricate. But it's also, if this doesn't sound like too much of an oxymoron, it's simple.
The best technologies are sometimes the simplest.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I
And
got
I
to
always
see,
say, don't
yeah,
worry, there's a lot of
I
art.
got to see the unit for New Jersey being put together before you shipped it up there. So that was kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Well, so yeah, we always say, it's an electrostatic concentration. So you use a magnetic field and you migrate the PFAS and super
Yeah,
collect it. Okay, that sounds so easy, right? There's a lot of art going on in there.
yes, there
Flow
is.
rates, materials, voltages, membrane replacement, scale. I mean, there's a lot of engineering that
Yeah,
goes into that solution. So it's not that easy, but making it sound easy is how it gets adopted in the
right.
market, which is, oh, you migrate it and you collect it. It's no big deal. Well, it's actually a big deal.
Yeah. So before we move on to the other big thing that's going on in Oak Ridge, I want to just kind of wrap up this. And so
Sure.
you're looking early in the new year
Yeah. We'll be
of
live
an
and we'll
announcement.
have
You're
more
going to be live
adoption.
in New Jersey. Yep.
We'll have confirmation with the EPA. We'll have confirmation with the state, New Jersey EPA. We'll have other wins. No question. We're going to have other wins. No question. I mean, really, in my mind, obviously it's forward looking, but no question. I mean, I just can't even, it's undeniable because the market is so big and it's just so ripe. We also have some really important partners that are coming on board that will, the who's who in the industry. Additional investments going to happen. I mean, it is just super dynamic. Remember, we set these up as subsidiaries, and
Right,
that creates a very unusual structure that allows us to partner easily, to spin out easily. I mean, all of the assets in the portfolio are designed to create ease of adoption, ease
right.
of capitalization, dedicated capital, dedicated people. And so that's how it's rolling. And, we paid a dear price. Now, in that asset, we as BioLargo, we own 100% of it. 100%. No partners in that deal. Now, we're going to bring some partners in, but we're bringing in at such a nice late stage that we get a nice situation for both parties.
Sure.
We de-risked it largely. They can come in after the de-risking. They love that because they don't like these big companies, they don't like taking risks.
Right.
So we have de-risked it to the point of now commercial adoption and third-party validation at the highest level. And we got great people to support it, and we got great tech. It's patented. I mean, come on. This is
Yeah.
this is a winner. This is a big winner.
Well, and I've many times when I've explained BioLargo to our own members and other people, I've used the term prospect generator. People who in the mining, not just mining, but energy, a lot of different extractive industries. There are companies out there that specialize in the early work for their prospect generators, and they prove something up to a certain point. And when you get to a point which is different in the eye of the beholder, larger company says, "Okay, we're sold." Now we're going to come in with some money and help you build this or buy it from you, do whatever they're going to do. So cool
I
stuff.
did.